Welcome back to the channel, guys. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. I'm doing a weird thing today. I'm going to talk about how if realistic premises of films versus unrealistic premises of films, if whether that determines their success. Now, I'll start right from the gut. I would say I think a film's success is based on whether or not, which I think it's script, character, and story work. Now, breaking those into three parts is quite important because I think any film can fail at any of those points, and even if the other 2 points are correct, it kind of falls apart. Now, I've kind of chosen this layout because I've picked an equal number of films that I think are masterpieces at the top, and at the bottom here I've picked films that I think are garbage. But again, it's my own preference. I think we can all agree the ones that are masterpieces because those are kind of widely praised. Whereas the bottom ones, if any of these are your guilty pleasures, fair enough, enjoy them. I don't think any of them need explaining. I think you've got the Good Will Hunting, Lord of the Rings, Godfather. The bottom one, this one is Harry Potter. I've just picked a picture of Hogwarts. In Name of the King, I'll expect not many of you have seen that. If you have seen that, God help you, because it's literally just a rip-off of Lord of the Rings, and it's worth a hate watch, that film, because it is just such a rip-off of Lord of the Rings. It's even got the guy who plays Gimli in it, put it that way. And then you've got the Chronicles of Narnia. Again, I understand that might be controversial because some people like those movies, but I think they're garbage. And then you've got the Catwoman. I think everybody agrees that's shit. And this other one, which I thought was another kind of fantasy misstep, which is that Eragon thing. It was meant to be, and it was based on books again, that one as well. So they've shown they can kind of mess up book adaptations as well. But yeah, my opinion on realistic versus unrealistic. And what I mean by realistic is I would probably argue Good Will Hunting and Godfather are the two masterpieces that I would say are based in our world, what we understand. Now, admittedly, the events in the film might be unrealistic and over a shorter period of time, which they should be in real life. But then I would say they stand the test of time because of their script, their characters, and the way the film is, the way the film, the make of the story. There's a clear start, middle, end, and it's satisfying, and you get invested in the characters. Whereas you've got films like In Name of the King, which is a rip-off of Lord of the Rings, but it's done worse with a lesser budget, so that makes it just garbage right from the get-go. It has Jason Statham being Jason Statham, just a miscast as well. You've got the Chronicles of Honor, which I think it might be a bias on me that I don't like those movies, because I quite like the books. It's just, I think maybe I missed the boat. As you say, I was born in the time where I was growing up with the Harry Potter movies with the same age as me, as well as the Lord of the Rings coming out a bit before I could watch it, really. So I enjoyed those movies because those are my childhood, maybe. But I would consider those are masterpieces. Whereas nobody talks about Narnias and stuff like that. And that Prince Caspian and whatever the third one was called, I think it's Voyage of something, is garbage. And they are bad. Maybe the first one is okay. I think I can maybe argue with someone could argue with me about the first movie, The Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, is actually good. But you can't argue Prince Caspian and whatever the third one was. They were just rubbish. They got slated, and they I don't know if they did that. I think they did okay in the box office. And that Eragon, I think everybody can say it's rubbish. Maybe it has some good things in it. It has Robert Carlyle and Jeremy Irons as the kind of backward characters, but the main dude is rubbish. And like the story is about a dragon, and it could have been good, but it just wasn't. And the Catwoman equally so, miscast. The story was just basic bitch rubbish, and like Catwoman's been better by Michelle Pfeiffer, and even this new one who's done it in the Batman movie, and it's just not good. But we got to see Halle Berry in a cat costume, can't complain. Whereas so tell me if you agree or disagree. I think you can have a realistic film and an unrealistic concept. Like, you can have a film like compare Godfather and Lord of the Rings. I would say they're both probably one of the best films. I consider the Lord of the Rings trilogy a film. It's up to you if you just pick one of them. You can pick any of them. And the Godfather equally so. I picture that as a trilogy, even though I think the first two are better. I think the third one's maybe a misstep in the Godfather, but that's my own opinion. They're both, I would argue Godfather's because it's based on mobsters. What am I saying? Got gangsters and mobsters, basically. And that's what we had in real life. But then again, I don't think they lived the lives that they particularly lived, because you had people like Al Capone and all that, and this is obviously all made up, these characters. And then you have Lord of the Rings, which is fantasy, it's Middle Earth. It is meant to be based on English mythology, but it's not really. But guys, let me know, realistic, unrealistic. I think sometimes if you've got certain actors and a certain story to tell, maybe you do have to decide whether it's going to be unrealistic or realistic. Because if it's going to be a story of good versus evil, then you can have it unrealistic, as long as the story's good, we're invested in the characters, and the plot is good in terms of there's a clear middle, start, and end, and it's going to be satisfying. Whereas if you're going to do a story about, I don't know, someone really dark, like depression or something, I don't know, there's stories where it's like like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and stuff, that could have been on here. It's been a great. That was all about mental health and all that madness. And anybody's seen that film, very, very good. But it's very, very realistic. But then again, it's crammed into a short period of time. Let me know what you think in the comments. A weird video today. I know, it's just I've decided to make some conversation. I'm doing this conversation, realistic versus unrealistic. Tell me if I've made a mischoice somewhere. And if there's a film that you can have guilty pleasures that you objectively know are awful, but you have a like for them because of maybe there's a certain cast in it, and there's a certain, I don't know, some scenes that get you. It's just one of those things. And yeah, everybody has their own right to their own opinion. My opinion is it does play a factor based on what type of story you're telling. But then again, there's clear proof that you can do both and be very successful. But let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace out. I think the next video I'm going to do maybe might be historical versus non-historical. And what I mean, that's different from realistic and unrealistic. I considered unrealistic and realistic being, just compare Lord of the Rings, Godfather. I consider them, Godfather's quite realistic in terms of the premise, and the locations and the characters are quite, you can relate to them really quickly, and you understand that they're evil people and all that, and you understand they are people like that in real life. Whereas you got the Lord of the Rings, which is like a lot of characters there are just angels. They're pretty much angels based on what all the good guys are pretty much gooder than gold. So it's like, okay, the bad guys are badder than bad. So it's like, and then the concept of Middle Earth, magic, and Nazgul, Lord of the Sauron and the Tower, it's all fantasy. But then they're both brilliant. Whereas I'm thinking now, I actually haven't picked a story that's realistic that was bad. Just pick any of the kind of dross, any of the mob movies that came after Godfather that haven't done that well. I think that, see, the Sopranos movie that got made, I'm hearing that was quite bad. So you can maybe pick that as a bad one that was based on a good premise and realistic premise. But let me know. I'll see you in the next one, guys, and have a good one. Thanks for being here, and have a good one. I said the same thing twice.